Here's a bit of background. I'm a 43-year-old engineer, and my wife, who's 40, has been a manager at a large advertising company for the past 3 years. We've been married for 16 years and have 2 kids, our 14-year-old daughter and our 9-year-old son. Our marriage was pretty rocky at the start, but we managed to get through those tough years and came out better for it, or at least I thought we did. We married young, and we were still growing up ourselves, but we believed our love was strong enough to conquer any obstacle. Looking back now, maybe that was just wishful thinking. So, with both of our jobs paying well, we've managed to give our family a comfortable lifestyle. We've always been a tight-knit family, making sure to prioritize our kids and create great memories together. No matter how busy our schedules got, we always made time for the children. I've always considered myself a good dad and husband, even if I sometimes messed up with my wife. It was a complete shock to my system when I discovered she'd been having a long-term affair. Now, let me take you to the discovery. For the last 2 years, my wife had been acting distant, and those were the hardest years of our marriage. She seemed to dislike everything I did, constantly comparing me to her boss. She'd go on about how her boss handled things so much better than I did. Can't read her mind? Well, her boss apparently could. Don't take the initiative to plan dates and make her feel special? Her boss did that for his wife. Whenever I asked her what I could do to spice up our love life, she'd snap back with, "Don't ask, you should already know." I turned to books and research, trying to find answers since I was apparently clueless. But no matter what I did, my efforts were met with either half-hearted appreciation or outright disappointment. She had never been like this before, so I thought it was something I seriously needed to fix. Little did I know, it wasn't me who needed fixing. We were very close to her boss and his wife, who also had kids that got along with ours. We invited them to barbecues, family outings, and game days at the arcade. They'd been to our house numerous times, and we'd been to theirs. It's no surprise we became close. I even confided in her boss about our marital problems, thinking he was a swell guy giving me solid advice. Back to the discovery. I was emotionally drained from my wife's relentless demands to better myself under the threat of ending our marriage. Her attitude shocked me because before all this, I thought we had a great marriage. One night she was laughing and giggling while texting someone in bed next to me. Curious, I leaned over to take a peek, and she snapped, pulling away angrily and asking what I was doing. When I said I just wanted to see the joke, she told me it was none of my business and stormed off to the bathroom. That was the moment I suspected an affair, though I had no proof. The next day I made the mistake of confronting her. She was furious and denied everything, refusing to give me access to her phone. When she finally relented later that night, almost every text to certain people was deleted. The conversations were inconsistent and made no sense. I gave her the phone back, and we didn't bring it up again for a month. During that time, I had a buddy recover some deleted texts. She had started using a new phone, but the bits and pieces recovered confirmed my worst fears. She was having an affair with her boss. Knowing she'd deny it if confronted, I decided to bide my time. I was a wreck, consumed by thoughts of how this would affect our kids. The situation was unbearable, and I broke down in front of my friend. I didn't want to give up on the marriage, so 3 days later I bought How to Help Your Spouse Heal from an Affair. I started reading it, hoping it might bring her back and save our marriage. I planned to talk to her on Saturday, but she claimed there was an emergency at work and not to wait up. When I called her workplace that day, there was no answer. They weren't open on Saturdays. I tried calling her, but she didn't pick up. She came home at 2 a.m. on Sunday, showered immediately, and then came to bed. When I asked why she was late, she brushed me off, saying she'd told me not to wait. I was fed up with her excuses and sick of feeling like a fool. I didn't give her the book I bought. I was suffering, and she didn't seem to care. She saw my pain and was indifferent. Desperate for stability, I contacted her boss's wife, hoping she knew something. To this day, I don't regret reaching out. She was just as shocked as I was when she found out. She wanted to confront her husband immediately, but I advised her against it, knowing he'd probably lie and cover it up, just like my wife. We met at her house to discuss the situation, and I shared the little proof I had. She wanted more evidence, so we agreed to gather evidence separately and compare notes. I started snooping on my wife more, while she did the same with her husband. On her end, it was surprisingly easy to find undeniable proof. Her husband was so arrogant, he didn't even bother deleting the texts between him and my wife. The little texts I'd found earlier finally made sense, revealing the affair had been going on for 2 years. The boss's wife was livid, and so was I. She wanted revenge, and so did I. They'd slept together everywhere, her house, my house, expensive hotels, business trips. It was sickening to read. They even sent each other pictures, but we decided to ignore those to avoid further scarring ourselves. We wanted revenge, but not by having an affair ourselves. Instead, we decided that if they wanted each other, they could have each other. We both drew up divorce papers around the same time, dead set on ending our marriages. Our spouses had no idea we knew, and we played our parts well. We kept up the facade of normalcy, while inside we were seething, biding our time until everything was in place. When our plans were ready, they were added again. By collaborating with the boss's wife, we knew exactly where and when they'd be served. We found out which hotel they'd booked for their weekend rendezvous. I personally went there with the sheriff. I waited in the lobby while the sheriff set things in motion, and my wife was called down from her room. She came down in a bathrobe, looking panicked and confused, frantically asking me what I was doing there. It was quite a distance from our home, but not too far. The sheriff confirmed her name and information, and then served her. Seeing the shock on her face was satisfying, but I didn't want to gloat, so I started to walk away. She grabbed my arm, demanding to know what was going on. I told her, "You had an affair and I'm leaving you. Simple." She started screaming and pulling on my arm so hard that the sheriff had to step in and tell her to let go. She did, then began crying, insisting she could explain, that I had the wrong idea, that it was my fault. Getting angry, I left quickly and headed home. Her boss panicked when she told him and rushed home, only to be served there. We blindsided them just like they did to us. My divorce will be finalized in a couple of months, while hers might take a bit longer. Both my wife and her boss have been fighting the divorces, claiming they never intended to leave their spouses and that it was just a sexual affair, nothing more. They argue that people have survived worse affairs and emerged with stronger marriages. They acknowledge their mistake and want a chance to make things right. I asked my wife what she thought the outcome would be. She said she was just going with the flow and acted out of character, claiming she's not that person anymore. I told her she was an idiot. People around me are calling me evil for not giving her another chance. My kids know what's going on, age-appropriate details, and support me 100%, though they'd prefer if we stayed together. My resolve is slipping. Coupled with the fact that we still live in the same house, and she's going to therapy and reading the book I bought, it's getting harder to stick to my guns. She says she's remorseful and will do whatever it takes. All I tell her is that she's sorry she got caught, and that's all I need to know. She's called me bitter and resentful, accusing me of not being able to move past the negativity, though she later apologized, but I know that's how she really feels. The boss's wife and I still talk, which my wife absolutely hates. She thinks I'm going to have a revenge affair, or that the boss's wife is why I won't give us another chance. She's repeatedly asked me to cut contact with the boss's wife, just like she did with her boss. I told her she's crazy. We didn't do anything wrong, so why should I respect her opinions now? See, I think I'm done. I have no respect for her. She still doesn't want to give up and is actively trying to discuss her thoughts and reasons for the affair with me. I see them as excuses and don't entertain her. She wants me to do therapy with her, but I've read enough to know that sometimes therapists blame the victim, so I said no way. She wants us to read infidelity books together. What's the point if we're divorcing anyway? She wants to be intimate again, but I told her she won't manipulate me with sex. She insists it's not manipulation, just a way to show she loves me. I corrected her, saying she means love me now. People around me, even my mom, are frustrated with me. They say people make mistakes and that my wife realizes through her mistakes that she truly loves me. They tell me to reconsider, saying that everyone deserves a second chance, especially when they're genuinely remorseful. They argue that our family can be saved, that we can rebuild what's been broken. I told them I will never be anyone's fallback plan. I feel bad for treating her the way I do. I still love her, even though there's a lot of hate. Am I being unnecessarily cruel to her? She's trying really hard, but I just don't care. Should I reconsider the divorce? People say I'm moving too quickly and that I'll regret it. Is that true? I don't know what's real anymore. It's a constant battle between my heart and my mind, between what I once believed and what I now know. My wife's betrayal has left me shattered, And while part of me yearns for the stability and love we once had, another part of me screams that it's all a lie, that she doesn't deserve my forgiveness. Living under the same roof adds to the complexity. Every day is a reminder of what she did, of the trust she shattered. Sometimes, I see glimpses of the woman I fell in love with, and it confuses me even more. She's trying so hard, going to therapy, reading every book she can find on infidelity and marriage recovery, constantly apologizing and promising to make things right. But every time I look at her, all I can see is her betrayal. The kids are caught in the middle, and that's the hardest part. They're old enough to understand that something's wrong, but not old enough to grasp the full extent of it. They ask questions, they worry, they try to bring us together, and it breaks my heart. They love their mother, and despite everything, they love me too. They want us to stay together, to be a family again, and their innocent hope makes this all the more painful. My wife's desperate attempts to repair the damage sometimes feel like manipulation, and other times like genuine remorse. She's constantly seeking my forgiveness, trying to show me she's changed, that she's still the woman I married. But the pain runs too deep, and the trust is gone. I don't know if I can ever look at her the same way again, if I can ever let go of the anger and hurt. Friends and family have mixed opinions. Some think I'm right to divorce her, that I deserve better, that she crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. Others believe in forgiveness, in second chances, in the possibility of healing and rebuilding. They tell me to take my time, to not make any hasty decisions, to consider the years we've spent together and the life we've built. In the end, I'm left with a choice that feels impossible to make. Do I hold on to my resolve and end this marriage? Or do I open my heart to the possibility of forgiveness and try to rebuild what's been broken? I'm stuck in a limbo, torn between love and hate, between the past and the future. All I know is that I can't keep living like this, caught in a web of confusion and pain. Something has to give, but I'm not sure what that something is. I've been to a few therapy sessions with my wife. Despite everything, I still love her. One session helped me see she's genuinely remorseful. She hasn't handled the fallout perfectly, but she's trying hard. Another session was a disaster, though. She was upset about my contact with the boss's wife, fearing I might have a revenge affair. It was the angriest I've been, and we argued a lot afterward because I refused to cut off contact with her boss's wife. Eventually, I promised her there would be no revenge affair. I know I don't owe her anything, but she's still my wife until our divorce is final, and I want to hold true to my commitments. I've continued attending a few more therapy sessions to monitor her progress. Yes, this therapist handles both individual and marriage counseling. No, I'm not doing this because I secretly want to save our marriage. I want to see for myself how she's progressing. After the divorce, I plan to step away gracefully. The boss's wife is still determined to leave her husband, who is fighting the divorce tooth and nail. She's as resolute as I am. We confide in each other on our low days, but I still don't see an affair happening between us. We're just friends, supporting each other through this ordeal. My kids are handling things well. They know our divorce doesn't mean we love them any less. They don't want us to split up, but they understand why it's necessary. My wife no longer works at the advertisement company. She resigned shortly after being served. She has had no contact with her former boss. According to her, she's been seeking advice on forums to help save our marriage. I've been reading a lot about infidelity and initially didn't understand why people stayed with cheaters. But after seeing my wife work so hard to become a better person, I can see the temptation. She's not a monster. She's just flawed and made terrible choices. She's offered me everything to give her another chance, but I'm not sure I have it in me. The closer the divorce comes to being final, the more at peace I feel. Recently, we had a long discussion where she asked for a chance to prove herself after the divorce, even offering a post-nup. I wasn't completely opposed, but it would be a very long road for her to travel before I'd consider it. My mom and I made up after I revealed more details about my wife's affair. Now, she's furious with my wife. Navigating that situation is another challenge. As I sit here, reflecting on everything, I feel a mix of betrayal, anger, sadness, but also a strange sense of clarity. My wife's actions have shattered our life together, and while she's trying to piece it back, I'm not sure those pieces will ever fit again. Friends and family are divided. Some urge me to move on and find someone who truly values me. Others advocate for forgiveness, citing my wife's efforts. It's a constant tug of war in my mind. Living under the same roof has been challenging. Every day is a reminder of her betrayal. Though she's making efforts, the pain and distrust linger. Sometimes I catch glimpses of the woman I fell in love with, which confuses me more. Is it worth trying to rebuild, or am I just setting myself up for more heartache? My children are resilient and coping well, but I worry about the long-term impact. They love their mother and me, and their innocent hope that we can reconcile adds another layer of complexity. Through therapy, I've learned a lot. My wife isn't the person I thought she was, but she's also not the heartless monster I imagined. She's a deeply flawed person who made terrible choices and is now trying to atone for them. But is that enough? Can I ever truly forgive and move past this? The boss's wife remains a source of strength. Our friendship is a beacon of support in this storm. People might judge, but there's nothing more than mutual support and understanding between us. As the divorce proceedings inch closer to finalization, I feel mixed emotions. There's peace in knowing I'm taking control, but also sadness for what once was. The life we built, the memories, we're all tainted now, and I mourn the loss of the future I once envisioned. In a recent conversation, my wife pleaded for a chance after the divorce, suggesting a post-nup. While I wasn't entirely opposed, I made it clear it would be a long journey for her to regain my trust. She seems willing, but I don't see how it would benefit us. Deep down, I feel the divorce is necessary to reclaim my dignity and self-respect. Navigating my mother's fury towards my wife is another hurdle. She's hurt and angry, just like I am. Balancing her feelings with my own is tough. I appreciate her support, but need to find my own path forward. Standing on the brink of this new chapter, I'm filled with uncertainty. The love I had for my wife is buried beneath pain and betrayal. I know some wounds may never heal. All I can do is take it one day at a time, hoping eventually I'll find a way to move forward, whether with my wife or on my own. My wife is incredibly insecure, especially when compared to the other betrayed spouse, OBS. OBS, a younger, attractive model who runs a successful business, makes my wife paranoid that I'll give in to temptation and cheat on her as revenge. The nerve of her to lecture me about two wrongs don't make a right is unbelievable. While she's correct and I have no intention of stooping to her level, her hypocrisy is infuriating. Whenever I plan to visit OBS like I did yesterday, my wife becomes either extremely sad or overly clingy. She constantly throws herself at me, desperate to ensure I won't cheat on her in retaliation. I reject her advances, which only makes things worse. It astounds me how selfish cheaters can be, focusing solely on their pain, while the betrayed are left to pick up the pieces. Our kids still see OBS as kids, and I always take my kids with me when I visit OBS. Despite this, my wife is convinced I'm heartless enough to take any chance to sleep with OBS. It's laughable, really. The other man, OM, is still living in their holiday home, begging OBS to take him back. I won't lie. It brings me great satisfaction to see him suffer the consequences. He hasn't threatened me because he knows how much leverage I have. He deals with the fact that I'm still in contact with his wife. He visits his kids whenever he wants but ensures I'm not around. Honestly, I pity the guy. Lately, my wife has been overly apologetic, showering me with affection that I simply brush off. I'm not in a good place. We have a therapy session today, and I feel like unloading all the pain and hurt I've endured because of her. The rage I feel is becoming overwhelming. During a recent therapy session, my wife asked for more time to win me back, presenting various reasons why I should at least try to help recover our marriage. She wasn't pushing for reconciliation just yet, but she wanted us to work on it. I reminded her that she was only making an effort now because of the fallout from her affair. If she were still seeing the other man, OM, she wouldn't be trying at all. She had emotionally abused me for months, and I'm not someone who lets people walk all over me, even if it's the woman I loved. She acknowledged all her wrongdoings and apologized once again, promising countless times to make it up to me. She wants our marriage to be stronger than ever and genuinely believes it's possible. I asked if she was willing to deal with my rage because I had plenty of it. She agreed, saying she wanted me to unload on her whenever I needed to help process the pain. Whenever I previously asked why she had the affair, she gave me a million excuses. This time she was forthright and admitted there was no excuse. She promised to spend every day showing through her actions that she was truly remorseful and would never hurt me that way again. She revealed her deep insecurities and jealousy of the other betrayed spouse, OBS, explaining that the affair inflated her ego and made her feel beautiful and desired. She admitted it was a fantasy and would never last. She regretted the affair deeply, saying she would live with the guilt for the rest of her life and would probably never forgive herself. She admitted she couldn't compare to OBS and was sure I would cheat back because OBS is not only beautiful, but also a woman of integrity. Her insecurities, coupled with my anger, fueled her fears. The therapist then asked what it would take for me to consider my wife's proposal. I honestly said a time machine, because what we have now feels like a sham of a marriage. The therapist mentioned that all marriages face problems, from infidelity to death, and it's how these problems are handled that demonstrates the strength of the marriage. I was taken aback by this and suggested the therapist focus on my wife, not us. The therapist pointed out that my inability to listen to logical reasoning could be a communication issue, and I didn't disagree. On the drive home, my wife asked if I felt emasculated by her affair, a question she had never asked before. I answered yes. She shocked me by asking if I would feel better if I slept with another woman. I assured her I wasn't interested in a revenge affair. She then suggested a trial separation, where I could see other people to get my mojo back, while she remained faithful and waited for me to return. I found her proposal desperate and crazy. I questioned how this could benefit our marriage, and she explained that it wouldn't be an affair, since we would be separated with conditions allowing my freedom to see others. She argued it was a risk worth taking since we were heading for divorce anyway, but I rejected the idea because it seemed out of character for her. In the past few weeks, my wife has been strangely calm and patient, like a different person from the insecure one she used to be. Despite my distrust, she's been very generous in the divorce, which feels surreal. It's a difficult situation to navigate, but I'm trying to stay focused on what's best for me. So, my wife and I have decided to keep things civil and spend the holidays together as a family. It's going to be our last holiday together, though my wife is still holding out hope for a different outcome. I agreed to this for the sake of our kids. I love them dearly. Our divorce is set to be finalized in mid-February. We've split everything evenly, but she's been surprisingly generous. I'm unsure if this is a tactic or if she's genuinely trying to be fair, but she said it's because I've been a great husband and father, so she feels I deserve a little extra. It's not that she's losing much, but I do get a bit more thanks to her. I've decided to stop attending therapy sessions with her. It was giving her false hope and sending mixed signals. She's admitted she has a burning desire to be intimate with me. Since I've been away and she's understood how her affair made me feel emasculated and undesirable, she's been making frequent, and I mean frequent, attempts to engage me sexually. Honestly, she barely initiated sex before all this, so it's been a bit upsetting that she's suddenly so eager now. Over time, I've come to appreciate that she sees this as an issue and wants to address it. I've turned her down, but she's persistent, insisting that her intentions are not about reconciliation, but about making me feel good and desired. I've also put a halt on my contact with OBS because things were getting too personal. To the person who suggested I might be having a revenge affair, you weren't entirely off the mark. I didn't realize it myself until OBS confessed she wanted to explore our relationship further. She said she'll wait until my divorce is finalized before we try anything. I'm confused and unsure how to proceed, so we've decided to take a break from each other until everything is sorted out. OBS is attractive, but I'm not sure if I can return her feelings. I'm uncertain about how to handle this. Someone suggested that my presence might be influencing OBS's decision to leave OM. I want to clarify that I have nothing to do with her decision to end things with OM. She's made her choice independently, and we don't speak ill of our exes when we're together. OM recently approached me in person to apologize for everything. He's always been arrogant, and this experience has humbled him, as he put it. I didn't accept his apology. Call me petty, but I really don't care about what that guy is going through. I used to think I'd wasted years with a woman who turned out to be worthless, but she gave me amazing kids and precious memories that I will always cherish. Now, I finally understand that I deserve better. She betrayed me, made me feel small when another man showed her attention, and invested her energy in someone else. I can't believe it's taken me this long to truly get over her. Now she's doing everything she can to keep me. She's putting effort into us, trying to make me happy when she didn't care before. She wants to be adventurous in bed, something she never was. I see now how much I missed out on. Her texts with OM revealed just how graphic their encounters were. And now she wants to show me how much she loves me, despite being quite lazy before. She's giving me space and supporting everything I do, whereas before, it was all about her needs. She respects my boundaries and sees me as the king I wish she always saw me as. But now, it feels fleeting, almost like a show. She's being completely transparent and brutally honest, even if it embarrasses her. I've never seen anyone so consistently ashamed. She regrets the affair deeply, and it shows. She looks so miserable when I'm not receptive. And though it makes me hate myself sometimes, it feels necessary. Why can't I see this as a positive change? Why am I not judging her actions now? Many people recover from long-term affairs and become stronger. Am I letting my emotions cloud my judgment? Should I fight for this improved version of her? The truth is, I will not accept disrespect. Maybe I was willing to in the beginning, but I've come to my senses. To those who have PM'd me about my situation, I'm going to enjoy Christmas with my family and then move on from my wife. I've stopped clinging to the false hope I created to keep my wife's control over me. We are done for good. I want her to be happy, just not with me. She's shown me that. I've invited OBS to dinner after the holidays to thank her for supporting me through rock bottom. I genuinely appreciate her presence. It's just dinner, nothing more, unless we both feel otherwise. As the divorce finalizes, I'm realizing I have options, and one of them has been right in front of me. As for OM, I couldn't care less about him. I don't think I'll marry again. Although the divorce hasn't been too troublesome, I'm still losing a lot of money. The idea of marriage feels like a sham now. It's official. My ex and I have separated for good. This happened almost 3 weeks ago. For a few days afterward, I felt like I'd lost a loved one. The reality of my failed marriage hit me hard, and I haven't cried that intensely since I first discovered the affair. I also went through a lot of rage. It was definitely one of my lowest points. Everything has been sorted out for my ex, with some of the arrangements made for the kids' sake. She's moved out and is now living in an apartment, a significant downgrade that seems to depress her. She's still seeing a therapist and diving into infidelity studies, though I'm not sure why. We've had several long talks, both leading up to and after the divorce, with minimal physical contact. I know I shouldn't entertain her, but I want us to be good co-parents for the sake of our kids. I've been as logical about the situation as possible, thanks to this community and others. She's still pushing for reconciliation, but I find it too risky to consider. I'm not in the mood to give her that opportunity. This past weekend, I went to dinner with OBS, now divorced from her ex. We talked and enjoyed each other's company, and things got flirty. To be honest, the night ended up being very passionate, probably the most mind-blowing sex I've ever had. OBS is far more enthusiastic and skilled than my ex. I didn't plan for it to go that far, but it did, and I learned a lot. For privacy reasons, I'll continue calling her OBS, though she's now divorced. I'm not sure if we'll pursue a relationship further. The night's intensity might have been fueled by hormones and wine. She's interested, but I need to sort out my emotions first, and I think she does too. Overall, I feel really good. The experience with OBS significantly boosted my self-esteem. I felt desired and alive in a way I hadn't before. I realized what I'd been missing out on and know I'll never settle for less again. It's satisfying to know I didn't cheat or lower my morals. I'm proud of how I handled everything, even if I wasn't perfect. I've come out relatively lucky compared to many others in similar situations. I owe a lot to the advice and support I received from some people. I've been intentionally avoiding discussions about infidelity because it still triggers me from time to time. To cope with the trauma, I've stayed away from this site and others to focus on moving forward. I'm doing okay. No dramatic disappearances, just focusing on myself. I'm still in individual counseling. OBS is still my girlfriend. She's handled her situation with OM maturely, settling their child custody and financial issues without seeking revenge. There's some friction among the kids due to the changes. We've started their therapy to help them adjust and understand that my relationship with OBS doesn't affect them. It's been challenging, especially since not everyone is fully on board, particularly my daughter. My ex and OM can't stand each other. There's palpable tension whenever they're in the same room, with each blaming the other for the mess. My ex still wants a second chance, and is probably frustrated that OBS is now in the picture. She even tried to make a move at a 4th of July party hosted by a friend. I shut it down, but perhaps not decisively enough. I didn't believe it when people said she'd be pinning for me, but it turns out they were right. She's desperately trying to win me back. OBS is letting me handle the situation, but she's getting tired of my ex's antics, especially since my ex despises her. I genuinely thought my ex was trying to improve herself, but ever since I moved on with someone else, she's been a complete mess. It's baffling. Despite treating her better than anyone else, she treated me poorly. Now it seems like she's doing everything she can to get my attention. I'm not sure if I should be angry or just shake my head at the situation.